Good morning, everybody. I hope you've been enjoying the Louisville hospitality like we have. I'm really excited for this panel here. If you were at the International MLS Forum a couple of weeks ago, we talked about something similar, and I've had a little bit of an opportunity to work and add on to that. So this is going to be an especially great panel here. Before we get started, I think we can all agree that we are in the golden age of data. We are seeing new partnerships from industry incumbents, people outside of the industry, all in an effort to meet the consumers where they're searching for new and innovative ways. On the flip side, we have incredible prop tech companies that are finding ways to pull new data that we've never really measured or analyzed from the MLS perspective. And so with this panel here, what we're going to talk about is what this looks like in the future and what we, as the real estate standard entity, what we need to do in the future to ensure that we are taking in more of this data here to enrich our data sets, to bring more robust data benefits to our consumers and to our agents and everybody involved. So with that being said, I'm very excited to introduce you to two people who I'm sure you already all know very well, but Dominik Pogorzelski from Restb.ai and Dan Troup from Broker Public Portal. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and say a little bit about yourself?
Go ahead. Thank you. Dan Troup from Broker Public Portal. We operate and run a industry-owned portal called Cribio now, and I think it's one of the industry's only MLS and broker-owned portal that is set up to give back to the industry. And so I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is around consumer search and some of those pieces. And I've been in this space for a while in consumer search, so it's fitting for this topic.
Great.
Dominik, Dom, as I think most people know me. I'm the president of the MLS division at Restb.ai. I think quite a few people know us as the guys who are the company that's able to analyze, photos and extract as much information from them as possible. So we're an AI company that specializes in real estate. Obviously, photo analysis has been our bread and butter, but we've also now been expanding into more data analysis and agentic AI as well, obviously, as the AI space evolves.
Yeah, great. Well, Dom, I'm going to start with you here. So AI, and this is the understatement of the year, it's been on the periphery maybe 5 years ago, but now it's a true cornerstone of what we do every day, what consumers do every day, and how they interact with real estate data. Where are we at through, we're here at RESO talking about standards. Talk us through kind of that standardization gap that we're in right now with AI data and standard data that we're all used to and accustomed to.
Yep. And let me maybe start by throwing some interesting stats, at people here. So we've analyzed a ton of data to kind of see, where are the gaps and where really is the market compared to where we think we are. And there's a couple of gaps that stood out that I thought are very interesting to share. So let me start with the fact that from our analysis, we saw that 2 out of 3 houses that have an outdoor kitchen don't actually mention it in the listing fields of that listing.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're someone who loves to have barbecues in your backyard on a Sunday afternoon, and you're looking for a home that has an outdoor kitchen. 2 out of 3 of those homes will not show up if you're actually searching for a field that says outdoor kitchens. 1 out of 3 houses that have water view don't mention it.
Yeah.
That's huge money left on the table for a feature that, you would think that is very high value, that, agents would for sure put in the MLS. But, for whatever reason, whether it's time or effort or whatever it is, 1 out of 3 don't mention it. 15% of garages don't include the garage count. Again, very high value information that people would like to search on.
Yeah.
And last but not least, and this is one that our latest model, our latest Autopop model can now also detect, is the condition of the home. Is it a fixer? Is it renovated? Is it under construction? Again, a field that a lot of agents, investors, buyers told us that they would love to search on, on the downstream side of things.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a house that's either renovated or that's a fixer because I want to fix and flip it or whatever. So all that information is out there. It's present whether in photos or other unstructured pieces of data, but it's not being inputted into the MLS for XYZ reasons. Because I think I spoke to somebody who said, as an MLS, in the ad edit, in the listing creation process, we have about 250 different fields, but 50 of them are required.
Yeah.
Guess how many of those 250 get filled in by agents? 50.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to go at 51 or 52. So
Shocker.
So yeah. So it's not shocking that a lot of data just does not get put into the MLS, for all the reasons that we know.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, you are literally rewriting kind of the book on consumer search here. How does this kind of play into your side of the business?
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you put that, rewriting the book. Honestly, I don't think the book has changed that much on consumer search. Probably if you look back at the last 50 years, consumers searched on what fields? They probably searched on bedrooms and bathrooms and size of home and location of home. Mm-hmm. And those are still things you don't want to give up on. If you look at any top portal, specifically in the US and Canada, those are the ones and even probably other countries, those are the fields that you can select from, right? I think it's these things that go above and beyond that is where we're seeing a lot of greenfield work being done. Yeah. Beyond that, or just being able to naturally talk to the data, like you're seeing in ChatGPT and these other models that you're able to talk to about the data. So we really see kind of as an advance beyond this, really we're seeing a movement in voice search becoming a thing traditionally on mobile and desktop to be able to just naturally talk to the data and get results. And that's why I think this pairing works really well, because the collection of data and the search of data, I think, are going to become two really important factors here in the future that help shape the real estate standards. And what happens when we start aggregating how people naturally ask about data, right?
Yeah.
Today we have this construct of how we search for data. It's this giant form that goes beyond bed, bath, square footage, and location. It is this huge form that involves a bunch of checkboxes that has the data normalized to a very normalized, I would say, lowest common denominator across the US to try to hit as many from as many different areas. So we lose this local flair of certain things. Like waterfront isn't as important in Denver as it is in Michigan or Minnesota, but mountain view is important. We don't have any mountains in Michigan, so those fields aren't important. Do we lose that local searchability? So when you open up to this natural language search, and then you localize it and you provide those stats back to an MLS, which is what we're trying to do, how does that then shape how you store that data and what people put in there, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the speed at which you collect it or what the required fields are, those required fields usually are local as well, right? To help do business locally. We don't want to lose that. We think that's so important. And the ability to just offer this open box for consumers to type in and what they'll type in there. Now, they'll type a lot of dumb shit in there, okay? And we can show you the stats on that.
I'd love to see that one day.
Oh, yeah. Let me give you one. 5 minutes from a Costco, but I want 50 acres in the wooded and private and no neighbors. It's like, Costco doesn't build Costcos in that area, okay? Like, you're asking for, and I want waterfront too. And I want to own the whole lake, right? And it needs to be under 150,000 or something. You'll get these crazy requests, but what happens when we start to roll this data up? What are common things people ask for? And this may be trends in design. This may be trends in things like outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
What do you think the requests were when COVID came around? Was it a home office, private home office, or maybe we're seeing houses now with multiple home offices or spots that can be converted into offices? So the work from home piece, high-speed internet, those are all things that we're seeing become more important in that search experience. And we're really excited to start to aggregate that data together and give it back to the industry.
Great. Dom, I want to touch on one thing you both kind of said here, is that collection of data. So with the fields that we have now, it's very standardized in a way that it's supposed to be and it's designed to be. Mm-hmm. But to your point, and things what Restb does and other companies like it has the ability to tag anything and everything in a home. Talk to us about that and kind of how AI can help us get over that hump here of adding more data points naturally and accurately to a listing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit on an interesting point. There's the data that is currently being, let's say, tagged or inputted by agents. Mm-hmm. And then there's this whole huge universe of data that's being, right now completely left on the table and completely omitted.
Yeah.
To give you an example, our latest AutoPop model can populate up to 468 lookup values that are RESO aligned, which I think is already a tremendous amount of value. But we're also able to actually tag 2,500 visual insights about a home.
Yeah.
So it's not just about tagging, every little thing, but it's tagging things that are pertinent to the home, to the sell of a home, to the value of a home, and how that exhaust data, where does that exhaust data live?
Yeah.
Is the question. And how does that even come to the fact that we have exhaust data? And I think in some ways it's a delicate balance between right now, the way that the data is inputted is a very manual process. We're relying on the agents to take the time, to take the effort to actually go in and fill in all those data points, which is good because it does need some sort of oversight.
Yeah.
But it is extremely limiting. You can't go and ask an agent to say, hey, can you fill in 2,500 data points? Like, your phones are gonna blow up in terms of saying, hey, what the heck is this 2,500 required fields? Like, forget it.
Well, give us a couple of examples for clarification's sake. What is in that exhaust data there?
You're gonna have a lot of merged data. For example, deck or outdoor patio. So we can have outdoor patio. We can have, is it a large deck? Is it a small deck? Is it, there's or qualitative features that we can add to that specific RESO field that, doesn't really have a place to live necessarily, but is of interest to guys like Dan who can say, okay, well, I'm looking for a larger deck, or is it just a small little patio? So there's the granularity of the data that you're never going to ask an agent to go in and put in, but AI can really kind of, within seconds, pick that up and then store it somewhere. And that the question I think that, we're kind of talking about here is, where does that data go? What do we do with it? How do we still make sure that we capture that value, but still in a way that doesn't create, a mess down the line?
Yeah. I would imagine that specificity, as search gets better, it's that much more important to your point, some of the stuff that's being entered into your searches. Like, there's probably some pretty granular stuff that they're looking for.
Totally. And, I think having the traditional forms is a little bit of a learning curve right now because we don't have the data that supports it, that people want to just openly ask about houses.
Yeah.
And no two houses are exactly alike, so this isn't a matter of, indexing car features here, right? We're indexing an unlimited amount of stuff, basically. And so I think the collection problem we're starting to see solved, which is awesome, through image detection. And it's no additional add-on on the behalf of the agent, right? It's very like a passive thing that happens in the background on behalf of the agent and enhances the data. Or things that are happening with like Cubicasa and the floor plans, right?
Yeah.
They're capturing data in there. How could those other data points be rolled up into that? But also, we think that just data collection on behalf of the agent is going to become easier in the future. And whether it's the photographer doing it, the agent doing it, the ability to collect data right now has never been easier to do that. I think what we need to think about in this organization is, are we going to grow fast enough around that data collection and the points consumers want to see? So you're going to ask me, what do consumers want to see? And I don't know. It's going to change over time, but I think it's key for us to collect as many data points.
Yeah.
Because that data just becomes more valuable inside of our space, outside of our space, whether you're participating in things like Redistribute, right? The insurance companies want to know about stuff, about the property that maybe the agent didn't collect, so that this data just becomes more valuable. When we look at structuring that data, though, and normalizing it across all of the different data sets, I think that's where it's going to get hard, right? As we start to look at those things. So, and it may just not be what's collected here. So today, when we grab a listing, when we get a listing from MLS, we are also associating other data assets around that make it searchable.
Yeah.
That isn't in the MLS. I'll just give you one, geocode, right? We don't always get geocode, and this is a good example. But we associate school IDs to it that consumers know, right? That are just general school IDs. Which I know we're working on here at RESO to try to make better, but there's all other assets that need to stack on top of that I think we can actually start doing at the MLS to make it easier for everyone. And as we look at other data types like vector fields, right? I remember tagging Matt and my team, like, what is this field that says like public remarks and it looks like a bunch of lat longs? It's a vectored version of public remarks to help you make it more searchable, right?
Yeah.
And I just gave an example the other day in Florida, around searching for homes that don't have hurricane damage. And we got results back because agents are putting it in the results, but it's not an MLS field. So now you have a very timely field, right, based upon something recent that happened. Yet consumers are searching on those things like, I don't want a house that's been flooded. And the ability to look at public remarks and look at these other things to derive, that's how other portals are doing it today. They're looking at public remarks, they're looking at photos to derive these things. My fear with photos, Dominik, maybe we can talk to this a little bit. We don't know what the agent gave us a photo of. And the fear, I think, from our part of image tagging and other things is, are we tagging the actual property? Like in my neighborhood, they always upload a photo of the HOA pool.
Yeah.
And it has like this white fence around it. It has a clubhouse, it has a swing set. And like under image tagging, that would come up in my house. Like I have an in-ground pool, a white picket fence, stainless steel appliances, because that's what's in the HOA, a nice swing set. None of those exist at my house. So I think as an organization, determining what we are really trusted as this is of the property around image detection, and maybe you guys have this solved. I don't know, I haven't talked to you, but you can talk to it a little bit.
So it's actually a very interesting challenge because it's something that our team also came across a couple of years ago. When they saw this, like, yes, if you tag it image by image and you just look at every single image individually, you can extract wrong information, misleading information. And that's why I think a few years ago, we launched what we call our property API. So instead of looking at image per image, we look at all the images of the property. And then our AI has some logic to say, okay, well, this house is a clubhouse and not the house itself. So if the clubhouse has brick, let's not say that the property is made of brick, right?
Yeah.
So there is logic there. It's not perfect, but it's something that, at least we've done a pretty good job of trying to weave together and for the AI to understand what is part of the property versus what is, community amenities. But it is a challenge and it's not perfect. And it's still hard sometimes to determine that. So
I think we can help with that, right? Like understanding even images uploaded, is this of the property?
Yeah.
But if you stare out your back slider and you take a picture of the backyard and you catch another house that's off the back that may have something, is the AI good enough to understand whether or not it's looking at a picture of the house? And I think the accuracy around those, if we're going to use image tagging, which I think we should for search, we should try to get as accurate results as we can from things like that.
Yeah. Well, let's use that as a segue here, because we gather twice a year, we talk about all this stuff. Like, this is evolving quite literally daily and weekly now. So what we talk about at this meeting is going to be different than the spring meeting, which will be different from the next fall meeting. So what can we do here as a standards body to start to think about this a little bit differently and start to incorporate some of these things as standards?
I think I don't have the answer, to be honest. And I think this is the answer. It's more of a question that I think is, with all the smart people in the room, hopefully we can find a way to find, how do we build that scaffolding that allows RESO to, I don't think have to look at the details of, what field exactly are we gonna be putting here or there, but how do we build a scaffolding that allows RESO to scale at the speed and exponentiality of AI?
Yeah.
And I think for us to start thinking that way, it almost feels necessary for us to acknowledge the fact that there is some data that will come from the expertise of agents and will be put in, manually by agents.
Yeah.
Reviewed, confirmed by agents.
On site.
Yes, on site.
Yeah.
But blue check mark on that data?
It could be. Yeah.
That's cool, right? Like verified.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
But to also know there's a whole other potential, data lake of information that AI has tagged that maybe needs to be considered differently or thought of differently or stored differently or I don't know what, but that there is these two layers of input that then can, create two layers of potential output experiences. There's the maybe traditional outputs, but also having that whole breadth of exhaustive data somehow standardized in some way can create, AI-driven experiences on the output side, fuel kind of what Dan and his team are doing, or all the other vendors that are doing really cool stuff on the output side. So I think, my opinion is, at least we need to acknowledge that. Some of the data that's going to be put in will not be confirmed by an agent. How do you manage that?
Yeah, and those are material data points, to your point on the search aspects. Like, let's not waste those. Let's not throw those away, because to your point, that's valuable to other entities downstream, so.
I would say start collecting it now.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to get it in the right buckets later.
Yeah.
So we're definitely seeing trends. You guys have been around for a while doing this. So I know some MLSs probably have a lot of historical data around these properties. But as it becomes easier to search, you'll already have that data ready to go. So I would say start collecting it today. And then the other trend we're seeing, obviously, is some of these automated around listing input, where it's easy to collect a lot of information quickly.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to organize that information into some standard. Well, we kind of have that standard today, which is good. So let's get it into that standard, but let's not just throw the rest out. We should probably keep that and start to roll up what are we seeing across many different properties. I think in one of your examples, in the backdrop of your Zoom, you have wood ceilings, right? And I think about some of our newer interfaces and how they're room-based, and you go room by room, right? The kitchen has this, and there's a lot of descriptive pieces around that room. It's flooring type, it's size, it's ceiling height. What's the ceiling made of, right? It almost becomes unlimited things that can be described into even room color.
Yeah.
And that happens to fit really well with floor plans, right? So I think that there is a very basic way to structure this data that makes it searchable by not only the agents but consumers. But I think we have to start collecting it now. Like, as an MLS, I would be collecting that data now to then apply it in the future, and I have a nice historical data set to go on. So I'm trying to sell your services here.
I'll pay later.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. I mean, this is, again, we meet twice a year here, and what we talk about here is going to be different than the next meeting. So I think it's important that, to how you've both said this, to acknowledge that we have, I wouldn't call it an issue, but I would call it more of an opportunity here to really expand and enrich the entire data set. So I think when you go meet with your work groups, talk about this, bring it up. We know we're not going to solve it at this meeting here, but we need to start thinking about these things as a group here. So with that, any closing thoughts?
I'll just go back to the collection. We need the evidence at Data Dictionary to create better Data Dictionary.
Yeah.
So we need to start collecting this data to get better Data Dictionary. So the ability to pull up analytics or pull up other things to see what the trend is and see what the trend is around searching, what do we want to start collecting at every property? And then to localize those searches is the kind of information we want to bring back as well to say we should start collecting it in this area. So I think what's going to make the Data Dictionary better is by MLSs starting to collect it, bring it back to Data Dictionary and say, okay, what's other data? How can we structure this data better?
Yeah.
But right now, Data Dictionary takes it in based upon volunteer, like, hey, we think we need this field or these changes. I think bringing evidence to the table will help your case at Data Dictionary.
Yeah, good point. Dom?
I think there's the RESO Data Dictionary has been fantastic at creating like a core set of data that is expanding and is growing. And I think I saw, the Data Dictionary 3.0 is going to have 500,000 or what have you, fields, 50,000, I think. And I think that is critical to have and to continue growing. Because there is a core amount of data that I think still needs to be, validated by agents and that MLSs need to grow upon. But there's 10x amount of data around that.
Yeah.
No matter how much you grow the Data Dictionary, there's a 10x amount of data around that is sitting there untapped right now on a home. Whether it's photos, whether it's sensors, IoTs, there's a whole bunch of signals that a house is giving out that basically is, it's speaking about itself.
Yeah.
And that's 10 times the data that an agent can put in, if not 100. So how, and again, it goes back to the question on the slide, like how can RESO align itself with that scalability of just saying, all right, we acknowledge that there's this data, we have to at least make sure that we start capturing it in a way that allows for future-proofing it, allows for all the different experiences that are being created around it to at least be able to use it in a way that is not misleading to the customer,
Yeah.
but that is also usable and valuable to the end customer.
Yeah.
So I would almost see it as, thinking of those two different worlds and how can those two worlds live together in a complementary way and not as, it's one or the other or neither type of thing.
Yeah. Great points. We're right at time here. We have a lot of work to do on this. We're going to have a lot of work to do on this as the years kind of progress here. So everyone, please give it up for Dom and Dan. And if you have any questions, come see them. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.